Awesome. So what's going on, everybody? My name is Cameron. I'm over here with Tidal Loans. I'm one of the account executives. And, hey, we are also your favorite hard money, private money lender. We're based out of Houston, Texas, but we lend nationwide. We have a lot of different loan products. We have fix and flips, ground up constructions, DSCR, you name it, we most likely have a product for it. I'm here with my man Nahom with New Era Development, and he's going to give a little bit of spiel about himself.
Yeah, my name is Nahom. I'm traditionally an attorney, but I own a planning firm called New Era Development. We handle platting, replatting, and general legal services for the Houston area.
Awesome, man. So, man, tell us a little bit more about yourself, man. How did you get into business? How long have you guys been active? Tell us a little bit more, man.
Right, so the firm is about 9 years old. I kind of went to the development aspect of things, and I started looking around for firms that do planning work in the city of Houston. There just wasn't that many at the time. So kind of how I got into it was just generally a service that I needed. And we kind of built it out over the years of the missing pieces that I felt like was missing in the Houston market. Something we educate most of our clients on all the time. So it starts with, I would say assembling your team, right? So a lot of investors sometimes are under the misconception that they should hire their trades or their architects and engineers after they purchase the property. But that's not how typically it works. Typically, I'll speak about ourselves. We offer that service pro bono, meaning we want to make sure we can accomplish your goal before we take it on as a project. So if you guys come to us or a potential client comes to us and they mention, they have an idea of how they want to develop the lot, it's our job to make sure you can accomplish that. So we want to make sure, one, that we go through the title covenants, meaning are there any deed restrictions or restrictive covenants in that area that you're proposing to develop that restrict you from what you want to do? As simple as if you want to build a duplex and your community says no duplexes, then that's something we should easily be able to find, and we will let you know so you can then pivot to another development. Second is the survey. We want to generally just make sure there's no easements, there's no encumbrances, or there's nothing that prevents the actual physical land that you're buying from development. Third is, given Houston's civil requirements and a lot of the flood zones in Houston, that's probably the overarching theme that a lot of investors don't really pay attention to. So you have to make sure that you have the civil capacities to actually develop what you want to.
And so you kind of said something there that, the due diligence, right? You just kind of gave a brief description as what they're kind of looking for. Now, when should a potential investor reach out to you? Like, let's say they want to buy a lot in 2 months. Should they be getting with you a month in advance, or is that just kind of per deal? Or can you share a little bit of insight there?
Yeah, sure. And I think that's the hesitation that a lot of investors have to reach out, is because they think it's going to take a long time, and it really doesn't. Right, so the due diligence can really be done in a week. Right, so if you eye a project or a piece of property that you want to buy, typically you need to open title, and what that means is you need to legally have a contract between you and the seller, and it goes to the title company. So that's how my company and your company begins the process, right? So when the investor does that, they will be given a survey and a title company. So those are the two legal documents that begin your due diligence, right? So we're able to go through the recorded documents to make sure that there's no restrictions on the lot, and then we look at the survey. So typically when we review those two things, I would say on average you probably have an 80 to 95% chance of actually going through the project.
I got a question. In terms of, if I'm a new investor, right? Can we talk about, if you feel comfortable talking about it, kind of high level, what does it look like from the start to finish, right? Because I know you've been in the business for a while. If I'm looking at a piece of property, right? We talked about, hey, okay, first step is, I can go on the city map viewer and see, hey, high level what it looks like. Then I can reach out to you. I think I should be able to subdivide this puppy. And then from there, right, what happens after that to the point where I can actually build? Can you give me high level that steps and maybe time frames if you feel comfortable talking about it?
I think the first step is obviously, in my opinion, is getting pre-approved, right? So you need to make sure that you have the capital to be able to build what you want to build. So that takes you as an investor taking a step back and looking at your personal finances, meaning that you need to have money to be in this business, right? There's I don't believe in people not having money and jumping into real estate because there's just so many costs that are associated with this. Once you have that box checked, the next step is to find the location, land, right? Find the piece of property that you want to invest and spend the time development in the development process. So once you've done that and you've acquired the lot, the next step is to go and speak to an architect, right? So a lot of people have the misconception that you come straight to the platting company, and that's not necessarily true, because the foundation of your whole project is based on the square footage of your development, and that is going to be designed by your architect. So once your architect reviews your plans and you guys speak and they come up with your vision board or your designs that you want to do for your project, then you come to us. So once we have your site plan, we know exactly how to replat your property, right? We know how to subdivide your property. And more importantly, we know how to begin engaging with the city of how to get it approved.
Yeah, that's a big point, right? In terms of, because we will finance, deals that we want to see entitlements, but in terms of like having the proper, the building permits and all that, typically that can come after the fact, right? We still got to go through that process, right? And so if something changes, then obviously the value changes, right? So that can be very costly. In terms of, it's going back to what you were saying there. Is there something that you guys do on your, in terms of, we talked about from a due diligence process, having a survey, you guys look at it, right? You guys, you can see, if there's any easements, right? If there's any setbacks that might be involved. Is there anything else that you guys do or see, or you can name certain other things that y'all might see that might be a red flag? Do you guys, y'all have a conversation with the city to kind of see, hey, is it feasible, and like a little, pre-conversation, any kind of
I think the value proposition that we offer is just our experience. When you plat over 100 plats a year, you pretty much have seen everything. And our relationship with the city is, how they're going to view a particular piece of property, right? So traditionally, when I'm seeing a bunch of lots and title commitments and I'm beginning to review them, my mind's already kind of working about how this is going to be approved or how it's going to be denied. So I would say the value is I can initially tell you within probably the first 5 minutes, hey, this is not going to work, right? So before you spend you spend more money and you spend time, you're already going on plan B, right? So right there, we're kind of, I would say, showing our value of, why I think you should contact someone as soon as possible. Two, is our communication with the city. Ultimately, the rules within the city are pretty vague, right? The way that they write the rules it's just a general framework of how they want things to be processed with the city. They understand every lot's different, every development's different, right? So the goal for the city is to give you the general framework, but there are oftentimes, I would say 1 out of every 5 plats that we process, there's an initial conversation with the city before we submit it. Because just as the client's on a shot clock, we are also on a shot clock. When you submit a plat to the city, you have 30 days to get it approved. Because from the city's perspective, there's only a certain amount of employees they have to review these plats. So if they're getting 200 plats a month, they got to make sure that it doesn't go over that number. So that time frame that you have to get a plat approved is very important from our perspective. For internally, what we do is we have an initial conversation with the city, and we get a preliminary, sometimes markup of what we can and cannot do before we submit it. And what that helps us do is make sure that we can get it approved in an appropriate manner for the client, you guys. And we've had some clients who had projects really go south, right? So as we mentioned, the timelines, typically you want to be in the building phase at 6 to 8 months. We've had mutual clients who sometimes are, a year and a half in. And, I know a lot of banks who have, kind of pulled the plug and, or lenders who have pulled the plug. You guys are pretty flexible, easy to contact. You're a text away, Cameron. So, I would highly encourage a lot of builders and clients of ours to, use your guys, and, you guys are with them for the long haul. And, that means a lot, not only to us, but to them.
Absolutely, man. We really do appreciate you saying those nice things, man. And we didn't pay him to do that. Can you share with us a kind of bad to good story of maybe something that has happened?
Yeah, we have so many issues that, we can kind of pinpoint on a lot, but I would say, for the sake of time, it's, we generally have, 1 to 2 clients who reach out every month who have went to another firm, and for whatever reason, their project just didn't get approved, right? And when I kind of start looking through the files, I start to realize quickly that firm just gave up on the client, right? So when they come to us, typically we'll look over all the projects or all the documents from that previous client. And what we try to do is take it from there and actually go to the city and figure out the problem. Once we figure out the problem, which takes time, that takes effort, and at that point, we haven't been paid, right? We typically don't like to take payment until we know we can get it approved. So once we take it to the city and figure out the problems, we will engage that client and we will actually get that project approved. And that, I think, is our bread and butter.
So what really sets you guys apart, right? You said there's 5 major companies out there. What is setting New Era apart from those guys, or even some of the smaller companies?
I would say, if I would just have to pinpoint on one thing, is just our speed. I think the biggest praise that we get when other individuals come in and use us is just how fast that we get a plat done. And I think that's just a testament to our upfront work, right? Generally, the way I think other firms operate in my experience that I've had personally before we started this firm, is they take your plat or they take your project and they just kind of blindly submit it to the city and see what feedback they get. And then they work backwards. The way we work is we try to solve the issues first and then submit it to the city. So in doing that, you're just going to speed up the approval process as fast as possible, because the rules are in general available to see in the front end.
Okay. And are you accepting new clients?
We are.
Okay,
always,
nice.
Always.
So what is the best way for somebody to get that process started with you? It's their first time, never spoke with you in their life. Do you have a website?
Yeah, we have a website. You can contact us at neweradevelopment.co. We have our emails on there, our phones. You can give us a call. You can let us know how you want to develop, and we'll get back with you and just let you know our next steps and process.
Awesome. And how many people do you guys have on your team right now?
We have 5.
5
members.
Nice, man. And with that being said, do they all wear different hats, or are they all just kind of the same person, just different?
No, so we have drafters, and just project managers. So typically, I will look at every project and then kind of set the timeline of how I think we should operate this project, and then I'll pass it on to our staff.
Nice, man. And just kind of as we're kind of finishing up here, right? If you had to give one piece of advice, or maybe a couple of tidbits, right? What would you say would be, high level, the best thing for somebody to either get started, or just kind of maybe tips of the trade or something of that line?
I would say it's just about who you hire, right? When you're in this business, if you've been doing it a long time or you're new, I think it's the same advice, is hire people who know what they're doing, right? So there's a level of expertise that you may have, but at its core level, you want people who are competent, have the relationships with the city, and have seen all the problems that you may come up against. And when you hire the right people, typically every project, no matter how bad things can get, there's a solution to it. But it goes all down to who you've hired and
their level of professionalism.